All right, good evening, everyone. I'm not Phil Buckley. Phil Buckley is on vacation in Maine, in case you didn't know, and probably not even giving a single thought to us tonight. So don't give a thought to Phil Buckley this evening. But welcome to the Raleigh SEO Meetup. If it's your first time here, I'm sorry for that awkward introduction. Phil Buckley is the head of the Raleigh SEO Meetup and normally would be introducing me, but I get to introduce myself tonight, which means I also get to chastise Phil once again for pulling on me. Phil's little joke on me every time that I speak here is to give me some horribly bombastic title. He never asks me what the presentation should be called. So the last time I did one on Google+, I think that his title put out on meetup.com was How Google+ Will Change Your Entire Life. So you know now it gives me Google+, the life, the universe, and everything. It's not quite that. It's not even close to that. But what I'm going to try to give you tonight is a picture of why I think Google+ still matters, why I think it's undersold, why I think it's going to be around for a long time to come, which will be the first issue that I'll deal with because there's been a lot of talk about that fairly recently. They'll give you some insights, I hope, into some things that you may not be aware of, in the way that Google+ works, the way that it integrates with all things Google, and some very interesting things that we've found out about how it can actually affect and increase your reach beyond just the social network that everybody talks about. So we'll go through that tonight. Certainly open to your questions along the way or at the end, and I hope this will be helpful for you. So let's dive in. So this is the picture that people had from the earliest days, right, of Google+. This is what you all. Oh, I was hoping it was going to get rid of that. Sorry about that. Bring that back. There we go. All right. All right, it's trying to get rid of that little legend down at the bottom, but we won't worry about it for now. Anyway, this is the way that originally the running meme joke about Google+ in the early days, after the initial excitement, when people got in on the beta invite, and then people realized that their Facebook friends weren't going to make the switch, weren't going to be coming over. They couldn't find the same old people that they already had on Facebook, they already had on Twitter. They decided that Google+ was a ghost town. And right from its earliest days, that's a lot of the tech journalists were writing it off as that this is a failure. It's going to pass. Well, 3 years, we're almost 3.5 years in. It's obviously not gone, and it's not a ghost town. There's also this kind of meme that was going around because in the early days, maybe back in 2011, when I first got on the third day that Google+ existed. One of the other conceptions of it was that it was pretty much all guys, geeky guys, techs, marketers, and photographers, and that was about it. And there was a certain amount of truth to that. Those are the people that kind of jumped in the early days, but that's stuck. And the reality is that it's moved on. So by 2012, it was a healthy, diverse social network. It was not a Facebook killer, and it probably never is going to be unless Facebook shoots itself in the foot. But goodness knows, Facebook's had more than enough chances of doing that. It's aimed the gun, it's fired a lot of times. I think it's even hit its foot a few times, and people just keep using it. It's kind of that thing you go back to every time Facebook makes a change or some news story comes out about how Facebook is violating your privacy or Facebook's doing that or that, somebody starts luring people to leave Facebook, and nobody leaves because everybody's there, right? Your activity's there, your friends are there, your family are there. So Google+ is not going to be the Facebook killer, but it is a viable social network. There are millions of people on there that are active every day. It's become a much more diverse network. It's not the place, again, where you're going to go to find your friends and family. But the thing I always say is, if you already have your friends and family on Facebook or wherever else, why do you need another place to go find them? The people who have found value as far, we're not going to talk a lot about Facebook as a social network tonight. I'm more interested in it for our purposes here on how it integrates into everything that Google is doing, particularly in search marketing, and why I think it's an important part of your search marketing program if you're very serious about it. But as a social network, it's become a great place to be. I'm there every day. I enjoy it. It's a place that takes a little bit of work because you have to go out and find the people and brands that you want to engage with. They're going to share your interests. But most of the people that I know there, and some of them have become many of them have become more of my best friends. Some of them I've never met in real life. We've done enough hangouts that it feels like we have. Many of them I have met at conferences or my travels, and so it's been great for that. So let's put that to rest. It is a viable social network. It's not the largest, it's not the smallest, but it's doing its thing, and it's the people that use it every day are very happy with it for that. But let's kind of move on beyond that. Now we just got past kind of all the Google Plus of ghost town stuff finally died down and went away, and then we had our next little adventure here. And this was an article that came out in TechCrunch. It was actually published by TechCrunch's editor-in-chief called Google Plus' Walking Dead. And that was published because, I forgot I thought I had a sign there, but in April of this year, Vic Gandatra, who is the father of Google Plus, who brought it into birth, who was raised to vice president level at Google, had an office right next to Larry Page, and brought Google Plus through its first 3 years, announced that he was leaving. And once again, the immediate, rumor started, and there were all these other rumors that came up. Anonymous sources within Google supposedly were telling tech journalists that, most of the Google Plus staff has been reassigned. They're all working at Android now. They've moved to another building. And there's all these rumors that were flying around that Google was going to shelve Google Plus, that it was going to be gone. But I published an article within that month on, I think it was on Search Engine Marketing Land. That's a link to it up at the top there. Called Google Plus is not dying, but it will change. And I gave there the reasons. I'm going to go through these in just a moment. Why I thought that Google Plus is not going away, that Google is not about to abandon it. But I think the overall strategy and the overall way that Google has been presenting Google Plus is changing. And the months since then have borne me out right, I believe. We're starting to see some things that are evidence that they're changing the way that they brand it, the way that they market it, the way it fits into the overall plan. And I really call this kind of the maturing of Google Plus. By the way, just in case anybody in here doesn't somehow recognize that meme, I caught some flack for that. That is from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, a satirical movie. I use this image that has the headline on that article in Search Engine Land, and I got several scathing comments and angry things on social media, people saying like, what a horrible, horrible image. Well, how could you even so horrendous? And obviously I didn't realize that this is just satire. It's the scene where, Monty Python and the Holy Grail takes place in medieval Europe, and they're satirizing the plague. Now, great comic value in the plague always. But people bring out a guy kind of going through the town in this cart full of bodies, saying, "Bring out your dead, bring out your dead." And this guy's carrying out one of his relatives, I guess, over his shoulder, and says, "Here's one about to throw in the cart." And the guy going with me is saying, like, "I'm not dead yet." He says, "Yes, you are." Well, I've got better. But that's kind of Google Plus, where I saw Google Plus at. People were pronouncing it dead, but it really wasn't dead yet. Here's Valentin Zimmer, whose title is the chief architect of Google Plus, brilliant guy, has become kind of a friend of mine, responding to the TechCrunch article that supposedly quoted this anonymous source saying that Google Plus staff had been moved to a new building and was being totally reassigned. He said, "It is true that somewhere around 1,200 Google Plus employees moved to another building. That will in fact be the entire Google Plus team as we outgrew our old building and we're packed in like sardines. The new building is great." He's just, Ron has a great sense of humor, and that was his way of letting us know that things are alive and well with Google Plus within Google. And this is Dave Bresbris, who was selected to be the replacement for Vic Gandatra and is now the head of Google Plus. This is a quote that he said in a post on Google Plus: "Vic's departure has no bearing on our strategy, and we're going to keep shipping awesome stuff." I've got to be careful how I say that last phrase. But So we have these assurances. Everybody at Google, Lori Page made even a public pronouncement, very rare public pronouncement, to say, Google Plus, we have no change in strategy. It's still as important to us as ever was. It was going on. Now, all these people are going to say, well, Google lies about everything, and if you're a Google conspiracy theorist, I can't do anything with that. But I think there's other reasons to believe this and to say why Google would continue to operate Google Plus, even if it hasn't killed Facebook, which I'm not really sure was ever really their objective. Not that they would have minded if that happened, but I'm not sure that's ever really what it was about and what it was created for, as we're going to get into in a moment here. So here's the meat of that, of why I think Google Plus is here to stay for quite a long time to come. Google Plus is now the heart of Google. It has been almost completely integrated over the last 3 years into almost everything online about Google. You're talking about YouTube, Google Maps, Google Local, Google Business, Google Places. The list goes on and on of how Google Plus has been integrated and become the substructure. A lot of times a lot of pain, a lot of times a lot of kicking and screaming. Some of you, if you're avid YouTubers, remember the almost revolution that took place when Google Plus converted YouTube comments to be Google Plus comments. But the bottom line here is that Google Plus it's like the circulatory system of Google now, and in the next several slides, I think you'll see why that's significant for us in particular as online marketers, as search marketers. But to take, it's not like people at TechCrunch and other places think is like that Google Plus is just like Google Reader. Because you hear those things all the time. So it's like, oh yeah, Google builds something and then they take it away in an instant. Google Reader, Google Bars, all these other things. You can name dozens and dozens of Google products that came and went. Some with lots of warnings, some nobody even noticed that they disappeared. So Google is not afraid to click the off switch. With Google Plus, it's not an on-off switch. Removing Google Plus would be like stripping the nervous system out of the body. You might still have a body, but the body will not function the way that Google has been designed now. And this is the heartbeat now, really, of why this is important to us, and what we're going to talk about for the rest of the evening, is the direction that Google search has been going. If you've been coming to these SEO meetups, if you've been paying attention at all to where Google is going and a lot of the things that we're seeing in recent years, this is the direction that we're moving. What's been generally called semantic search, the next generation of Google search. A simple way of putting this is that we're seeing Google make a revolutionary move over going back a few years now and going into the next several years to come. It's a transitional move from, as one Google engineer put it, from strings to things. Strings, meaning those of you who are coders or come from that background, in your language, a string means a group of characters. Until, from the beginning, Google and most search engines were based on analyzing strings of text, strings of characters on a page. And they could recognize, so if it said Mark Traphagen on a page, or it said Raleigh SEO Meetup, or it said Raleigh, that was a string of characters that the search engine could recognize. And they recognize that they come together, so Mark and Traphagen often come together. I recognize that as what we call a keyword, a phrase, and then we match that up with other documents that have that same phrase or people who are searching for that phrase, and that's, in a very simplistic way, that's a search engine, right? But Google came to realize that that had its limitations, and they were hitting the wall of those limitations. So what I do semantic search is to form an algorithm that can learn about the world almost in the way that you and I learn about the world, and can learn that Mark Traphagen isn't just a group of characters that happens to occur together on a lot of web pages, but that Mark Traphagen is a person, and that person has relationships. He relates to the Raleigh SEO Meetup. He relates to Durham, where he lives. He relates to Stone Temple Consulting, where he works. He relates to Moz and Search Engine Land and Marketing Land and Social Media Today and all kinds of sites where I publish and write, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To understand that those are relationships, and those Google calls entities. Entities are things in the world. Persons, places, things are basically nouns. So to come to understand that and to begin to form what until this week Google called the knowledge graph. And what's amazing is just yesterday, Google at a conference announced something that lines up with some patents that our friend Bill Slosky has been looking at, that they are now moving from the idea of the knowledge graph, which was a rudimentary way of trying to form these relationships by looking at existing databases and depending on such things as markup that people do and the structure of web pages, things like that, to try to identify these entities and their relationships into a whole new level, what they're calling the knowledge vault, which is a much more automated way of being able to look at the web and in a machine learning kind of way, learn and understand and recognize, say, on a page of text or an image or a video, that this is a person. Okay, that this person is the same person as we heard about over on this site and over here and over there, and here's how they relate together, and here's the content that they relate to, and the places, and the organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a huge project, but it's the next step in semantic search. It's identifying these things. Now, we're going to bring us back around to where Google Plus fits into this, because Google Plus was and is I think a very important step for Google, maybe a baby step, but an important baby step toward walking in this direction of semantic search. So let's talk about a couple of particular ways that Google built into the very structure of Google Plus to help them do this. There were two kinds of entities that Google wanted to identify most quickly, and those were persons and brands. So authorship, the whole idea of Google authorship, was to try to identify persons and what they connect to on the web. And I think a large part of the Google Plus project, especially when Google Plus became the way that you log into Google. We can go back to January 2012, when some of you might remember when Google updated its privacy policy. It used to be that anything that you signed into on Google had its own sign-in, had its own privacy policy, and it was all separate. In January 2012, what they really did is they didn't so much rewrite the privacy policy as they created one privacy policy to rule them all, and it would all be ruled through a Google Plus account. So essentially, everybody who wanted to use Google in any kind of really effective way would have to have a Google Plus account, whether they ever use the social network or not. And that's the important thing I want to stress here, is I think that's what Google is really after. Yes, they would love for everybody to use the social network, because when you do, they get a tremendous amount more data on you. They learn a lot more about you when you're actually using the network. But even if you never post anything in Google+, even if you never engage in anything in Google+, if you have a Google account, which is synonymous with a Google Plus account, then that's what you use to log into Google services and to get the most out of Google. A tremendous push into that, of course, came with the Android operating system, the success of that. Android now has the largest market share of any mobile operating system. And Android phones by default are Google Plus phones. They are, your account is a Google account. Everything is built around that. So, from that market alone, from the mobile market alone, they have tremendous adoption. And this is why I think it's important to realize, to ultimately think to Google, it doesn't matter all the cynicism about when Google Plus would say, we have 500 million plus people with Google Plus accounts. The last time they released figures was even more than that. And people say, yeah, okay, but that's everybody has a Gmail account, and everybody has an Android phone, and everybody has ever logged in anything on Google, and they're not really using Google Plus. And I say, Google never said this out loud, but I think they were saying, yeah, so what? Because they're logging in. And then the Google Plus sign came in for apps, many apps, both desktop apps and mobile apps, using Google Plus sign and another place. More and more people, with every passing month, are using the web while signed into a Google account. And that means that Google now has a unified identity for those people that it can track. It can watch what they're doing. It can see where they go, what they search for, what websites they go to. So it's a tremendous data tracking opportunity for Google, and I think it was a huge coup on their part even though it made a lot of people kind of scream like, why are you forcing us to have a Google Plus account? But in the end, you got one, and a lot of you are using it, even if you're not using Google Plus again. But anyway, back to authorship. Basically, there's a lot we've said in the past about Google authorship, but at its core, it's simply having a Google Plus account. Now, if you build out that account, if you build out the profile, if you put links in it to the things that you connect to, then Google knows, okay, this person, this identity is on these other social networks that they've connected to. They link to these other sites. If you use authorship actively, they produce content on these other sites. They begin to get a graph of that person that they can tie together. So it's, again, I'm going to say this is the baby steps of it, but it's very important baby steps for them. Now, they've come to realize that they've got to move beyond that, and that's that announcement yesterday, the knowledge vault, is that they can't be fully dependent on people. We've got a lot of people to sign up with Google Plus accounts. They've got a certain amount of people to actually use things like authorship. They've gotten a certain amount of people to mark up their sites with schema markup that helps them identify what things are on a page. But they know by now, the reality is that the vast majority of people are never going to do that. They can't be dependent fully on people voluntarily setting up things in a way that will help a search engine understand that. So they're going to be moving beyond that to be finding machine learning ways to identify those things and connecting them. But in the meantime, people that are connected to this, that have actively done this, are ahead of the game. I feel like someone like myself, because I'm very intentional about this, who is actively using Google Plus as a very filled out profile, I intentionally, knowing fully well what I was doing and what they were doing with me, I have connected everything I do online to my Google Plus account, because I want Google to have that picture of what I am, what I stand for, what I connect to, what topics I talk about, what people say about me. That's all part of me building my personal brand, my personal online identity. There's no other opportunity in history like this before to do that kind of thing. Now, from the brand side, what I call publishership, Google's never called it that, but the Google Plus brand pages, whether that's a local page or a regular brand page, again, an opportunity for a brand to say, this is us, this is our identity. Now, for an online brand, a regular brand or organization, you simply set up a Google Plus page, you make the main link in that page, the main URL, the one that shows on the cover image, to your official website. You link back from the official website, and that's all the connection Google needs. Once you've made that two-way connection, that brand page becomes your official brand page. Now, if you're General Electric or Ford, that's probably not as necessary. Google knows who they are, just like we all know who they are. They know where to find them. But, if you're Mom and Pa's candy shop, if you're Fred Allen Real Estate, if you're, some brand that Google wouldn't have any idea about, having a Google Plus brand page and making that connection, especially connecting it in a verified way to your site, or if you're a local business, connecting it to verifying it with your location, those things help Google have more confidence about your brand, that you are able to say you are, and then through that brand page to be able to trace what other connections do you have, those types of things. So all of that can help them better understand your brand, which leads to an important leg in the stool of, how do you rank online? One of the things that's going to become in the age of entity search, in the age of semantic search, that's going to become more and more important is trust. And that's not only how much other people can trust you, but how much can Google trust you? Google wants to promote brands it can trust. It's one of the reasons why big brands have so much power in Google now. Some people get into the conspiracy theories, like Google just wants to promote the big brands. But a lot of people are saying, it's not us, folks. It's that's who you trust. You know these brands. That's what you want to see. And so, people relate to them. People make references to them. They rank higher. They become very, very powerful in Google. But Google realizes that there's many things out there that could be very good search results for people that they may not know about. And so these entities, systems that they've given us, especially through Google Plus, are ways of telling Google, here I am. I exist, and look, people read to me, people share about me, people talk about me, that can build that trust that over time may say, maybe a very segmented market, but that may be all you need. That Google will, trust your brand, and that will help your overall rankings. Now, there's another thing that's happened since Victor and Dr. left, that to me gives high confidence that Google Plus remains at the center of what Google is doing, and this is Google My Business. This was announced a couple of months ago. It was a huge upgrade, or beginning of an upgrade, to the way that Google relates to businesses, especially smaller businesses and brands. A lot of us in this room are well aware of what a nightmare it has been if you are a small business or a local business to try to deal with Google and get yourself properly identified. It's just been a nightmare, and people have horror stories about it. Google My Business, and for local business, Google My Business locations, especially if you have multiple locations, is a huge step forward in making it much easier to make that link, make that identification. They've fixed a lot of the problems. It's not all fixed. There's still problems, but a lot of the problems that people bellyached for years. Just an example of that, within Google My Business Local, if you have multiple locations, it's much easier to bulk upload those locations, and once you do, you get back very quickly a feedback document from Google showing whether there's any errors or discrepancies. For example, one of the problems we all know is that something that can cause you problems on the local basis is if Google's seeing inconsistencies between various major directories out there, the NAP, name, address, phone number, information to those directories, and what you're submitting through Google Local. Say if there's discrepancies, then Google says, well, we don't know if we can trust the information here because these other directors are saying something different. They have a different phone number or a different address. This now points out specifically where those problems are, so you at least can go try to fix them. You can say, I got to go this direction. I got to get this information updated and get those things resolved. Like I said, all the problems aren't resolved, but again, this is a step forward and an indication that Google is serious about this, and that and what we see here is, notice it's not Google Plus My Business. At the heart of it, if you go to Google My Business as a brand or business or somebody that's never really identified yourself, it walks you through a wizard of steps to kind of set up everything, get identified, and a part of that is it helps you set up the proper Google Plus page for your business if you didn't have one already, and get all the connections made and everything like that. But it's just part of the process. It's not, this is what I meant when I said the new strategy, the new branding. We're going to see Google Plus itself begin to fade more into the background. Not disappear, not go away, but now it's matured. Now it's doing its job for Google. It's more in the background, and now it can come up front with the things that people care about. Maybe after 3 years got it through your head, nobody cares, nobody, but most businesses don't care about Google Plus. You can't say that you got to go to Google Plus, you got to go to Google Plus, it means nothing to them. You say something like, we have a Google My Business portal here, where in a few minutes you can get your business totally connected with Google, make all the right connections, help us to understand who you are, where you are, what you do, what you're connected to. You say, I want to do that. I want Google to know about that stuff. It's still Google Plus. It's just not out front anymore. It's not in your face. Let's go a little bit now about what does that do. So if you do all that, if you make all those connections, let's look behind the curtain. What are some of the things that you might get out of that? And some of the things, this is where I get a little bit into in this last section of some of the things that you won't hear about from most everybody else. I know it sounds very arrogant, but I have been in a deep dive on this for 3+ years now, exploring this, testing it every day. A lot of people out there are saying, well, it's Google Plus integrated to Google, so it must affect your SEO, right? It must affect your search rankings. The things that I found out were it doesn't the way that people want it to, or think it should, or think it does. It's not just like if you post things on Google Plus, your search rankings will go up. First of all, that makes no sense. It would be stupid of Google to do. We know Google doesn't want us manipulating your search results. Why would they build a tool that allows you to manipulate the search results? So it's not that easy. It's not just like put links on Google Plus. A lot of people think that. Just put links on Google Plus and that'll raise your search rankings. It doesn't. So what does it do? Well, that's what we want to explore in the next few minutes. Now, let's talk first about global search. I pointed out for a long time, if you've been around the SEO meetups for a long time, and I give other talks here, I've shown that it is possible for a Google Plus profile to rank content in search. I've done it many times. I've had a great many posts, I keep track of them, that to this day are on the first page of Google. These are Google Plus posts that are on the first page of Google. They're usually for more long-tail keywords. You're not going to go, you're not going to go up against mesothelioma with a Google Plus post. You're not going to go up against, New York City apartments with a Google Plus post. But for longer tail searches that still have search volume, that still things that come up in the auto suggest, which means that they are things that people search for, it is possible to rank posts. Here's a recent example. This is a search for private messaging in Google Plus. I searched that today because I knew that I'd written a public Google Plus post about that a week or so ago. This is a logged out search, incognito, so not logged into my Google Plus account. That's on the first page of Google. And you can see down at the bottom, the bottom line, by Mark Traphagen. That's all that remains right now of authorship in search. Most of you are probably aware that in June, late June, Google removed photos from global search. We're going to get into where they still exist in just a moment. They said, just to digress for a moment on that, the only public statement they made about that, they said, is because they're unifying their user experience across desktop and mobile. All these little rich snippets, and by the way, it's not just author photos, but some of you may be aware that they've reduced, in some cases very drastically, rich snippets in search across the board. You're going to find, not for every search, but for a great many queries, you're going to find far less review stars and, little authorship images, all kind of the bells and whistles they've been adding into search for 3 or 4 years now. They're cutting that back. I think overall they're finding that it's not a great user experience. I don't think it's just the fact that they are trying to unify desktop and mobile as far as user experience, but overall they found that you start putting so many pictures and images and thumbnails and stars and flashing lights and everything in the search results, and it starts losing meaning. It just becomes overload, and people become blind to it. They don't see it anymore, or it distracts them from what they really should be looking at. So in any case, this is still an authorship result, but without the photo. But that's the point. The only point I'm going to make about this is it's possible, but it's very, very hard to do. And it's very limited. I have a pretty high authority profile, so I can pull it off, but it's not an easy thing to do. But if you go to personalized search, which is the default of Google since January of 2012, what they branded as, they don't ever use this term anymore, but they call it Search Plus Your World, where the default now is if you have a Google account and you're logged in, and most people, once they log in on a browser, whoever logs out of anything, right? You don't log out again, you stay logged in. So you go on easily on the web, and doing things, and you're still logged into your Google account. It drastically changes your search results. And your search results become affected by all kinds of things. Much stronger by your location, by your search history, what you've searched for in the past, by websites that you've visited, if you don't clear your cookies and history and things like that. All those things affect, but also your Google network, which means all of your Google contacts. First of all, of course, people are brands that you have circled on Google+, but also things like your Gmail contacts. Things that they are doing online and what they are endorsing with +1 and sharing can affect your search results. So here's one that just happened this weekend. My wife and I were up in the Amish country of Pennsylvania for a wedding. Beautiful country. We stayed in an incredibly beautiful little bed and breakfast in a little town called Marietta, Pennsylvania, on the Susquehanna River. Marietta, Pennsylvania, they ought to just, say you've seen that science fiction series, Stephen King, The Dome. They should put a dome over Marietta, Pennsylvania, because it's almost perfectly preserved 19th century town, and you walk around and say, like, no one would touch this town. It's just like, it's too beautiful, it's too perfect, it's too well preserved. We enjoyed our time there, so I took a bunch of pictures on my phone. uploaded them to Google Plus, and I put them in a post, and I titled the post, Marietta, PA Homes. Well, I seriously was not trying to do a search experiment. I was not trying to do a keyword. It sounds like a keyword phrase, right? Marietta, PA Homes. But that's what I happened to title it. But it was the next morning I woke up, and I was thinking about that. I was thinking, like, you know, that's a phrase that somebody looking for real estate in that area of the country would type into Google. And sure enough, when I type it in, Marietta, PA Homes, logged out of Google, that's what I get. I get Zillow, I get TrueReal, I get Homes.com, and I get local real estate offices, etc. going down. I'm nowhere to be seen. Now, do an experiment. I happen to have access to my boss's Google Plus account. He trusts me that much. And so I went and logged into his account. So now I'm acting as him. I do this because I know he has me circled on Google Plus. And I searched Marietta, PA Homes. And that's the top of Google there. So all the ads you see, the first thing is Trulia.com. The second result is me, is my post. And that's because he has me as Google Plus circle. So Google Plus saw my post about Marietta, PA Homes. If you search that as, oh, you know, there's some relationship between Eric and Mark. He has him circled. So it's likely this is going to be maybe a more relevant result to him. So they elevate it, and notice the full authorship. Full authorship snippets still exist for Google Plus content in personalized search. That's the only place. Also, sometimes Google News. In Google News, you still see them. Right?
So to apply this real quick, it would be a great strategy for a real estate agent to specifically target getting people to add them in their Google Plus service, to add them to the service. That way, whatever they post is going to come up in those people's search results, even though they may not, on a more general search or a universal search, show up for everyone.
You just jumped ahead and you can all go home now. Yeah, that's the strategy I'm basically leading to here is if you can find a way to entice a target audience into connecting with you on Google Plus, then you are affecting their search results. When they search, logged in for things relevant to you, if you are posting content on Google Plus that will be relevant to the things that they will search for, you will be elevated in their search results and get this kind of results. And this is, I'm going to skip it, I'll come back to this in a moment. By the way, since June 28th, it's for brands too in the US. And they've been testing this, I've been watching it. I keep track of lots of friends in Europe. They've been testing this in Europe for over a year now, but it just showed up for us June 28th, because I look for it every day, so I know the day that things start, that in personalized search for brands that you have circled on Google+, if they're regularly posting content on Google+, and it also seems to be that if it's more likely you'll see this if you've engaged with the brand, even a little bit. So if here or there, even just plus one something from that brand, this is more likely to show up. But I follow Easy Space Storage on Google+. I have them in a circle. And so today I searched on Google for RV storage tips while logged in. This is on the front page for me. Now, if I'm logged out, this is nowhere to be seen. But logged in my Google account because I had those circled. So, jumping to what Fred had just said, if I was Extra Space Storage, I would be doing things out there outside of Google Plus to incentivize people to connect with me on Google Plus. Maybe posting content that's unique on Google Plus and saying, go out on your Twitter, your Facebook, your email newsletter, wherever, and say, hey, we're doing a series of RV, how to get your RV ready for the winter. It's exclusively on Google Plus. Come connect with us there to get these tips. You do an expert hangout. I've done this with several major brands where we create a series of expert hangouts and we create a community, because Google, if the brand creates the community on Google Plus, Google sees that relationship, and so anybody that enters that community, Google sees is related to that brand, and they'll get these same results. Again, the brand, as a brand, you don't care if that person never does anything else on Google Plus, as long as they're doing it with you. If they've connected with you, then you have the opportunity to influence their search results in this way. Well, let's quickly go back to this one, because it's interesting also. I asked people on Google Plus, and I got about 40 or 50 people that responded and did this. I said, go right now and search for Marietta, PA homes. Do it, log out of Google, and then log back into your Google Plus account and search for it. And tell me the result, and tell me whether or not you have me circled. Now, obviously, most people that saw that post had me circled. That's why I saw the post. But there were a few people I'm very thankful for, because other people had reshared it that didn't have me circled, that did the test. And people didn't have me circled, didn't see the post. But almost every single person, and by the way, this was worldwide. It wasn't just like in the US. Worldwide, every single person that searched for Marietta, PA homes, logged in, who had me circled, got this result on the first page of Google. Now, why should I other one down there? Because a few people said, no, I didn't get you, but I got somebody else. Because by that time, about 10, 12 other people had reshared my post on Google+. Well, the next day, I logged in as Eric again, I did this search, and the second result came up, this guy, Ron Rock, who Eric also follows in Google+. That's a reshare of my post. Now, I know now from the other people that did it, that if they had William Rock circled but didn't have me circled, they'd still get the result because William Rock shared it and they're connected to him. So there's an extension now, an extended reach. If you get content and you get other people sharing it, then people that they're connected to can potentially get that content pushed up in their search. Okay, so let's make it practical now, because I've been testing this like crazy and seeing where it works, where it doesn't work. I've done hundreds and hundreds of searches, created test posts, see when does it come up, when does it not come up. I've got a whole testing group of people that have been helping me with this. Here's the commonalities we found. Number one, keywords. Obviously, keywords are very important. Keywords in the post, but especially in the title. The title on a Google Plus post, you can see this one at the top there, the first line of a Google Plus post, up to a certain number of characters, I'm not sure exactly how many, Google treats like a title tag. And every Google Plus post is like a page on the web. And Google actually treats those like a title tag. If you know something about SEO, you know that if you put a keyword in a title tag, no guarantee, but you're more likely to rank for that page for that keyword if it's in the title tag. So first tip is use keywords in the post, but especially in that first line. And on Google Plus, you can make a nice little title if you put asterisks on either end of a line, of a phrase, it will come out bold like that, which is what Extra Space Storage did here. So there's the keyword. RV storage tip. When I logged in, because I connected the Extra Space Storage, I searched for RV storage tips. I got their post highlighted with their brand logo on my first page of Google. Okay, so second tip, circle relevancy seems to matter to some extent. Now, what is that? Well, if you use Google Plus and you go in on your circles, it's now called the People tab, and then people can go to your circles. The default, this shows all the people that you have circled. The default sorting of that is called relevancy. We've known what that means since the first day of Google Plus. Nobody's completely sure what Google means by relevancy here, but it appears to be a combination of, first of all, if anybody's in your Gmail contacts, they're going to be high in your relevancy. Like, bottom right there, Sarah Free is my daughter. She's not active on Google Plus at all. I don't think she and I have ever exchanged anything in Google Plus, but she's very high in my relevancy because she's in my Gmail contacts, and we do communicate through Gmail, so she comes up high. But almost everybody else, in that view that you see there, are people with whom I have engaged frequently on Google+. So they come up high in my relevancy. Now, what's comes into play is, what we see is that it's not necessary to have a relevant relationship with a personal brand to get those personalized results that I've been showing you, but they are more likely to occur if you are. So there's the second part of this, is not only getting people to follow you or follow your brand on Google+, but incentivizing them to engage. Community is a good way of doing that. Having good content that you bring people in there for, and you ask questions, and all the things that you do in social media to get people to engage. And we found, though, that even if it's a little bit of engagement, we found that people that just maybe +1 or two things weeks ago, would be much more likely to get this personalized search content coming up than somebody who never engaged with the brand. Then, of course, much more likely than somebody who didn't have the brand circled at all. And the third thing, and I apologize for the yellow text, I shouldn't have used that, it's too late, I see. But the type of post, this is another thing we found. The one type of post that almost never shows up is a link share post. And what I mean by that is where you create a post on Google Plus where you've either shared directly from a web page by hitting the +1 button or the Google Plus share button and shared it to Google Plus, or you take the link from the web page and you put it in the link box on Google Plus when you're creating a post in the share box. What that does is it creates this rich snippet below your post. As you see there, it grabs an image, makes it nice and big, just like Facebook does now, full column width image for the post, puts a title and the URL underneath. That looks great on Google Plus, but these don't tend to show up in the personalized search. And I thought about that. I thought about, why? Why is Google excluding these? I think it's because it's a bad search result when you click on something and you're still another click away from the content, right? I think they see that this way. I think they want to be promoting in search what appears to be more original content on Google+. There's one kind of doing that, though. They still have a link. If you want to share a link, this is the way to do it, like this. So here I'm sharing a post by my boss, Eric Enger, that he had out on a third-party site, a guest post that he published. And instead of putting the link, instead of sharing it directly from the +1 button on the site, or instead of putting a link in the link box, I grabbed an image. I downloaded an image from the post, uploaded that, and made an image post. So this is a post that's not a link post, but an image post. And I also put the link, I used a link shortener, but I put the link in the text of the post. So we set down at the last line, no answers at HTTP, there's the link. So if you do that, Google doesn't see that as a link share post. It's a content post. That kind of post will show up in those search results. So I hope that's kind of clear, but that's a tip. All right, I think I'm going to forego this. I was going to walk through, this was the presentation I did at MassCon last July. I was going to walk through that, but we've been there already. This was just like one type of strategy about how to bring an audience into Google+, how to bring a dedicated audience in. I'll tell it to you in 30 seconds instead of going through all the slides. And it's just this, that the strategy we've done this with several brands already. I kind of mentioned it earlier, where we set up a series of expert hangouts. We found some people who are recognized experts in the field. We did this for one major craft store brand. So we found some people who were known as crafty people, kind of known in that world. They're known in the do-it-yourself world, the DIY world. And we got them to sign up to do a hangout interview with us from that brand page. And then we went out and publicized that far online. Said, hey, on July 13th or whatever it is, come to this place. You can watch it. You don't have to be logged into Google. You have a Google Plus account to watch a hangout. You can watch it. You can see the expert. But in the hangout, and in the YouTube video that results from the hangout, in the description, we have a private call to action which says, hey, you can engage with this expert further and ask more questions and engage with other people in this content. Come later. Guess what here is? Here is a community on Google Plus created by that brand's brand page. So what I said earlier, Google sees the relationship between, if your brand page creates a community, Google sees that relationship, and the people who come and engage on that community are counted as engagers of your brand. And so they, again, get affected by these the search results that we talked about earlier. So that's just one kind of strategy, one kind of way that you can incentivize. The other way we mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, might be just simply to do exclusive content on Google Plus and promote that elsewhere. Say, come and circle us on Google Plus, and you'll get notified of this. We're doing a series on this, or you'll get these posts or these tips or whatever it is that might be helpful to your audience. And again, we're just trying to keep focusing. You say, why are we doing Google Plus? Why don't I just do that on my website? Because your website most likely is not going to get that kind of traction in Google search. Unless you're doing something so good that you probably don't need to come to these videos. So this is just, again, we're presenting here tonight I'm merely saying this should be the next or the first thing that you do. I'm not saying this should be your primary social or SEO strategy, not by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm not saying, as Phil tries to force me to do when he makes up titles without asking my permission, I'm not saying that Google Plus will change your life. I'm not saying it's the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Actually, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
42.
Thank you, Doug Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans. But it's not Google Plus. But if you're ready, or when you're ready, to take your search strategy to the next level, if you want to spend some time on a strategy that could potentially make you very influential in search to a target, maybe very small, but a highly targeted audience. These are people that, for whatever reason, have connected with your brand. They've made that step. So they're not total strangers. And when they're going to do a relevant search on Google that's relevant to what your brand is about, to have your content pop up elevated for them in that way, when they get more attention that they're in search, I think it could be very, very powerful. So that's what I wanted to present tonight. I'm very open and willing to questions that you have, and we'll hang out as long as we can. Yes?
20% of my customers are on Google Plus.
20%?
20% of my customers.
That's pretty good.
Is there a best practice or method in someone just finding where they are? They're like an app or something to kind of form through Google Plus and what content they share about this.
Do you know who they are? Do you know which of the 20 are the 20?
Quality engineers.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant like specifically. You have a list of like who those 20% are.
Not yet.
Okay.
But I know from the survey, I have the data. I know 20%.
Okay, we have that data. Yeah. Okay, I'm asking that because no, there isn't any tool or way that would tell you that. But if you have that, that's extremely valuable data. What I'll be doing is constructing something like a targeted email list with them, some kind of targeted contact list, where way you can keep in touch with them, and then be thinking about a way that you can build something like what we've been talking about here for the last few minutes. Build something on Google Plus. I should repeat for the people in the Hangout that the gentleman who asked a question says that he's surveyed his customers and he found out that about 20% of them are on Google Plus, which is a high number. I mean, that's something you should take advantage of. And what I'm suggesting is that you use that information, start constructing like content on Google Plus that would be highly useful to them, and then reach out to them directly and say, hey, I want you to be part of this exclusive group. You're going to get stuff from me on here that you're not going to get anywhere else. To keep them engaged, first of all, make sure that they've got you circled, and then that they're following you, and then that they're getting good value, something they're going to engage with, that they might reshare. But like I said earlier, that's all you care about. You don't care if they do anything else on Google. I don't know, they have value in figuring out eventually for other things, but if they're engaging with your brand, then the next step is to make sure that you're regularly posting on Google Plus high-value content, good keyword-targeted content that's the kind of stuff that might be likely that they might be searching for and want to see. Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yes?
You're talking about how in mobile search they've removed the snippets and all that. They have it in the first lines for local search. Probably don't have the perfect wall, but do you envision that eventually they'll get that out, or is that?
Okay.
I don't know. I just thought that would be like the real.
Yeah,
That's what you want.
the question here is, we commented earlier that Google recently removed all author photos from search. By the way, that was a phased thing. We didn't quite see that coming, but they did back in October of 2013 at PubCon. Matt Cutts in his keynote speech there, he does an annual thing. He won't this year because he's on extended hiatus vacation, but he did his state of search speech, and the part of that speech where he talks about here's where we're going next year, one of the things he said was that we're seeing that when we show less of certain things in search, like auto photos and other rich snippet, that the quality of those results goes up. That's one of those phrases Google uses, and you don't know what they mean by it, and the quality of results goes up. It probably is Google speak for users seem to use it better. Users seem to do what we want them to do in search results. if they're not cluttered with all those bells and whistles, photos, stars, all those kinds of things. So they said, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be cutting that back. And in December, just a few months later, we actually saw it happen. We started to see over a period of 2 weeks, the amount of author photos in search dropped off. It didn't disappear. It began to differentiate in some way. Not everybody was getting a photo. There are 2 classes. You could get like everybody gets now, if you have authorship, you get a byline only, or you get a byline and a photo. Well, that held for about 6 months, and then in June, as we said, they removed the photo. But go back to the question. The question was, is this meaning that eventually authorship is going to go away altogether, or is it going to come back stronger in some way? I'll get out the crystal ball. Here's what I think. I mean, yes, it could disappear altogether, but I don't think they've all given up on that. I think part of the problem with authorship was, and this goes back to what we were saying about entities earlier, is that after 3 years of trying to make it happen, Google realized that the world isn't just going to mark everything up. And even though they do, they're not going to do it correctly. There's so much, we have a huge study at Stone Temple Consulting to see like how many major brands that use authorship have the markup wrong, according to Google's guidelines. We'll probably still publish that more, though it's just not as exciting anymore since the author photos are gone. But it's still very revealing that even major sites mess up this markup. This is no way Google could depend on that. So when they set up the Knowledge Vault later, they are really, really actively pursuing this. This is what I believe. When they get to a place where they feel like they can begin to really trust that, like that's giving them good data, and that most of the time the Knowledge Vault is really identifying real authors and really can tell what their content is connected to, I think we'll see then author rank become a reality. I think they still very much want to use that. Everything they've said, even in recent months, has been, this is something we want to do long term. We just can't do it well yet. We can't trust it enough to give it that much emphasis. So I think it will come back. I'm not saying like photos specifically in search will come back, but I think that it will eventually be a ranking factor. It's just when they've got to have a lot more confidence in it. Yes, in the back.
You mentioned that technical it's know as much about all the people in India. I'm under the impression that that's happening in trouble in Europe. Gathering too much information. So the question is that going to be a stumbling block for them to go down the path?
Yeah, that's a great question. The question is, what's happening in Europe? Europe's been advancing a lot of legislation that seems to hamper Google's attempts to want to know more about who we are and what we are and how we connect to things. There's all kinds of things that you see. Like if you may have seen this, if you connect to a European site now, a lot of times you get a little pop-up that comes up on the side that warns you that this is a cookied site. Europe, most places in Europe now, they have to tell you that this site puts cookies on your computer and you can opt out of it. The other thing, like the much publicized case where the European Union Court ruled that Google had to consider, people had to be allowed to be able to petition Google to have a search result removed from that. For instance, like if there's a negative search result about you and you think it's unfair, you have to be able to petition, and that's going to be a huge legal case. But all these things, as you're saying, is like, especially in Europe, we see in other countries where they sort of say, we're going to hold it here. You can't know all this stuff. So yeah, that's something to definitely keep an eye on. In a way, I think the knowledge graph, knowledge vault stuff that we're talking about kind of gets around that because it's not as easy to see. The stuff we're going after is the stuff that's real easy to see and to find, that Google knows this or sees this. This stuff is going to operate at a much lower level that's going to be harder to detect. So it's certainly something interesting to watch, how that works out in the years to come, I think. Other questions? Yes?
Sure, exactly how to phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
Given the relevance factor in search, I'm trying to figure out, you don't work for a big brand like Nike that has a big are you better off trying to focus on your brand's plus page or to put your focus on your personal one or executives within your company?
I get that question every time I speak about Google+. So it's a good question. It's a great question. It's one people don't wonder about, and that's something people wonder about. It's more relevant to Google+ maybe than any other social network, because you can do so much with a personal profile. I think the answer to that is that if you can use both, that's fantastic. It's so much more powerful. You should have both. You should certainly have a brand page for your, if you're any kind of brand, you have any kind of online presence. It's just like no-brainer these days. You should have a Google Plus brand page. You should make it properly connected. Again, as I said earlier, make the link connection if it's just a regular national brand or not translocal brand, or it's an online-only brand. If it's a local brand anyway, make sure you have properly set up Google logo pages. That's just a no-brainer. But below that, I think personal profiles are still more powerful in a number of ways if you can use them for marketing. This is just a thing of like, you can enter, brands can go into Google Plus communities, by the way. I like to say brands are people too. A while back, very quietly, Google started allowing brand pages to do just about everything that a personal profile can do. Unlike Facebook, if you have a brand page on Facebook, people have to like your page before you can engage with them. On Google Plus, you can engage with anybody as a brand. But it's still a lot harder to do, because when people see, if I post in some brand, XYZ jeans comments on my post, I'm like right away, oh, that's a brand. They're here to sell me something. They're going to spam me. So my guard is up. Now, they may prove that they're not, that they're there to engage and be good citizens. I get to know them, I warm up to them, that's good, but it's hard. When a person comes in, and by the way, the culture of Google Plus for the most part is this. It's like, because nobody knows anybody until they find each other, people are very open to you commenting, if obviously you're not a jerk. So, you can go in and you follow a discussion going on in public anywhere, you just go in. And you can do it as a brand page too. I just say you have to be a lot more careful. You have to approach it more gently, coming in. So it's really a bad answer to your question, but there's powers to both if you can use both. We are, at Stone Temple, we're a marketing agency, but Stone Temple Consulting. Eric and I have a very strong personal presence on Google Plus. We also keep our brand page very active going there, so we use both. It's kind of a two-headed strategy, I guess. Yeah, boy, that's always hard to decide. To some extent, I have to be careful about it, because there's a significant number of people who follow both me and my brand page, so I can't do that. But what I'll do is I'll post something first on the brand page, and then a day or two later I'll reshare it from my personal profile. As a double, it's enough distance in there that it's not going to catch all the same people, and I'm still getting my brand kind of known because I'm resharing it from the brand, so that that brand is there. They can follow it if they want to. So I try to do that sort of thing, just to split it up and keep it separate. You're welcome. Yes.
So when it comes to a page setup, as you were talking about publishership versus authorship. So like for a blog, would you split that and have authorship for somebody personally and then publishership for the? So I'm thinking of like a brand page, like blog page, which is found to be a really good marketing. So make sure you're saying instead of the publishership to go towards the brand page versus the authorship to go towards the personal page.
Right. Well, you can have both, and you should. If you have people producing content on your site, you should use both. Okay. Well, both is like the publisher rel, we call publishership, because the markup, the official markup is rel equals publisher. That's the link back. But all is one link for that. You just need a link. You can put it in the home page. You can display it. It could be in the header. It doesn't matter where it is. Or you can get a Google Plus badge. That'll do the same thing. As long as the link from that site, from your official site to your brand page, and the brand page, the main link of the brand page is to that site, that will make that verified publisher connection. That's a set and forget it one-time thing. You don't have to really do anything else with that. Authorship you should use if you have real people producing content on your site. Each of them, as long as they're willing, should have a Google Plus profile and have that authorship connection made, because then they're getting that individual author credit. That also, I think, I don't know if Google's doing this yet, but I really believe that as they get more trust about being able to evaluate authors and their content and what that means, and the value of an author given on a certain topic, I think eventually, if you have a brand, you have an official site, and you have high authority authors, trusted authors, regularly publishing on that site that Google knows about, that their authority will be reflected in your overall site through that publisher connection. I don't think that's really in operation yet, but I think that's where things are going, because that two-way connection on that. Anything else I can help you with? Yes, in the back, and we'll come up here.
What do you think about the industry of healthcare, the healthcare vertical that people opt into, jumped out? It seems like Google Plus is almost a really strong platform for them in healthcare compared to most other organizations that are attempting.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, is there a re-enter that, or are there any indicators to stay up?
When you say enter, you mean where they were actively pursuing healthcare to?
They were actively pursuing healthcare, building special resources, information for the healthcare world and individual patients as well as people that are looking to seek information using Google as well as building special for those.
Yeah, I don't have any particular information on that. Other than just, my experience with Google is that they are constantly testing things, and one of the things that's been made Google the success that it is that they are unafraid to do that. They build things, they see if people are using them, are they using them actively, is it benefiting enough people? If it doesn't appear to be, they'll either scrap it entirely, they may pull it back for a while, they may try it again in a different life later. So it's always hard to say anything like that. But yeah, I see a lot of things come and go. And all I know is that they're testing and they see their data, and they put into it if they see value in it. That's all I can say about that, I guess. Yes. Yep. You.
One thing that never gets mentioned at any of these is that it seems to me that different social networks are more fruitful for different types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I have like a crafty blog. And I have one post that I just looked at that was repinned on Pinterest 64 times and 0 GPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, in other words, each different social network has different niche, right?
And, I agree with that as a general practice. Obviously, yes, there are things that, it's interesting, you mentioned Pinterest. There's a lot of people still that will tell you, oh, Pinterest, that's just for fashion designers and craft people and, people that like interior decorating and for women, right? Some of the fastest growing, still a lot of Pinterest is that, but one of the fastest growing segments on Pinterest is men, first of all, and also all kinds of things. People have discovered, I'm using Pinterest a lot because I discovered it's a great bookmarking site. Like when I see something I want to remember, I want to keep, I put it on Pinterest. But I'm also finding that there's a lot of people in my field who are sharing things, and I don't do anything with interior decorating or flowers or crafts or anything like that, or frilly dresses, But so I say that to say, like, while that's true to a certain extent, you can sometimes break those stereotypes. And with Google Plus in particular, I think you want to go back to what I said earlier. You're not going to find, for a lot of verticals, a lot of segments, you're not going to find a ready-made audience there. That's true. You might be surprised sometimes if you search like for communities or things like that, you might find that, but it's not necessarily going to be there. So that's why what I'm advocating is if you want to, and again, I want to reiterate, this is why I said that I don't think this is a primary top-level strategy for anybody. I think this is when somebody's ready, I've done all the other things, I've covered all the social networks that are the easy pickings in the games, I've done that, I've done my basic SEO, now I'm ready to dig deeper, now I'm ready to go into some highly targeted strategies. So what I'm proposing tonight is, and the value of that is where you build something where you are incentivizing audience to come into Google+, specifically to engage with your brand. You provide incentives and reasons for them to do that. And by the way, I think there are some people that are doing some very successful things in the craft world and things like that on Google+. But the reason for that is not because Google+ is going to be a great place for crafters to be, but very selfishly because you want to get this advantage in search with them. But you've got to bring that audience in. You've got to give them an incentive and a reason to come and engage with you there.
But then Google Plus or Google, but it seems that they maybe put more weight to like Google Plus than they do to like a Facebook or Pinterest.
Oh yeah.
And things like that, which I think is grossly.
Well, to be fair, that's also part of the way the world is because Facebook. I would love it Believe me, I would love it if it was all, if they all played nicely together. You'd have a much better search world. You have a much better world than in general if, Facebook and Twitter and Google and everybody played nice, but they don't. And Facebook and Twitter have their own reasons. They don't, it's not Google saying like, we're not going to show their stuff. It's that they can't see a lot of their stuff. We did, if you go on our website, Stone Temple Consulting, our blog, you can find, it's just stonetemple.com. On our blog, you can find several studies we've done in the last year where we did major studies of how much of Facebook and Twitter is Google actually able to index. And it's surprisingly small in a lot of cases. They're not able to see. It's not that they don't want to. It's that Facebook has, the way it's set up, it's kind of, Facebook in particular, even more than Twitter, but Twitter to some extent, it's a walled garden. And they have their reasons for doing that, because Facebook wants to keep the revenue inside, right? Google, they don't have any motive to allow Google to index everything in Facebook, because if you're seeing Facebook through Google, you're seeing Google ads, right? That's where Facebook wants to keep you on Facebook 24 hours a day because they want to expose you to Facebook ads. So it's a two-way street, is what I'm saying, but that's the way of the world. Now, I agree with you, it'll be better, but Google Plus is going to show up a lot more in Google search because it's Google, where they have full 100% access to it. That's why I play there. I may not like it may not be fair, but it's the game, and that's why I play the game on their, on their turf, I guess you could say. Yes?
My question is a little bit similar to that as far as audiences go. If your goal as a business is to track audiences, and we know that Google owns both YouTube and Google Plus, do you have any recommendations as far as putting time into one or both, or maybe focusing on another audience like the Facebook audience? I mean, if you have audiences on Google Plus, should you spend the time to get them on YouTube if they're both on?
Well, it's easy to do because they're integrated. I mean, YouTube is. I didn't even talk about that tonight, but it can be a little tricky. You got to do it the right way. I suggest, I have some people I can hook you up with who can help you because it can be tricky. But if you have your brand page properly connected with a YouTube channel, then the integration is very close. And so what people do on your YouTube then is really a part of your Google Plus, your overall brand engagement. For example, like I said, comments are now integrated. So when people comment on or like or share a YouTube video, if it's on your channel, that channel is associated with your brand page, it's just like they were interacting on your Google Plus brand page. And video, YouTube is extremely powerful. So, if you have any kind of YouTube strategy that you're using, that is golden. It's why we're doing, we do so many Hangouts with Stone Temple Consulting because it's a great way for us to produce. We now have hundreds of videos, very valuable videos on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, that were so easy for us to create because we just did a show. We interviewed Graham Fishkin, or we interviewed, Danny Sullivan, or we interviewed Matt Cutts, or whatever. And that becomes, when you do a live Hangout and air show, that automatically, the moment it's done, becomes a permanent video on your channel. And you just optimize that the way you would any other video. So we've got, all this great content out there that people are finding and coming to search. So, Frank?
The videos, you mentioned the YouTube being very close with Google Plus. If somebody starts following your YouTube channel, or subscribes to your YouTube channel, does that count as being in part of your circles?
That's a great.
Are they going to start seeing those snippets, or do they have to take that extra step and go to Google Plus and add it to the circle?
It's the next thing I'm going to test. We're setting up, you try a second time today, you know exactly where I was going. Yeah, we're setting up the conditions right now to try to test that, to try to see like if we have somebody that comes in that doesn't specifically have the brand circled but starts engaging regularly with subscribes to the channel, is that enough? And then, or if they subscribe and they start engaging with the videos, liking them, sharing them, whatever, commenting on them, does that have the same effects? That's the next thing we're going to test. I wouldn't be surprised it doesn't, because we've already tested, I said earlier that if you set up a community, Google Plus community, even though it's one step removed from your brand, Google knows the relationship. We've already tested and proven that people that only engage in a community, if that community is associated with the brand, that counts the same. They get the same effect in search. So even if they haven't circled the brand page. So I would not be surprised if YouTube channel works that same way, but that's the next thing we're going to test.
Something else I was wondering with the community is I've seen some business models where you set up a private Facebook. Is there any pros or cons as to just setting up a private Google Plus community for the same kind of purpose? Because then you also get the SEO goodness.
Yeah.
From people being
I haven't tested that, but I would think, and that's, I'll put it on my list, but I think that would still work for this reason. Even though it's a private community, it happens, the person's membership in that community is through their Google login. So if they're searching, in the same way, like if you put a post up, I'm going to get too geeky here, but the Google Plus works, like if you post just to a circle can be a group of people or a group of people in brands, whatever. If you don't post to public, you post just to that circle, that post still is indexed by Google, but it can only be seen, even in Google search, by people that were in that circle. So the privacy, this is again that total integration, whatever privacy you use in Google Plus is extended to the whole Google network. So that person in that circle, or in this case, I would think in a private community, searches for content that was shared by you to that circle, they will be able to find it or have it come up elevated in their search, because a lot of your Google knows they have that access, so it will show up. So I think the same thing could happen with a private community, but I would need to test that also. Yes?
You mentioned that you should be doing all the basics first. So, one of the basics of SEO is, if you're trying to attract someone to your website, say, your business is having a blog, and producing original content, and trying to get people through that. Are you saying that still is kind of a fundamental thing? Because, doing posts on your blog versus on, these other, on social networks, on Google Plus, that should still, are you saying that should still be your first thing, or?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. Not everything I say adds more to your workload, but I think if you can, as you expand, I'm still a believer that you need to have a good website and you need to have good content on your website. And I think you should still be striving to try to rank well in your market for your own site. Obviously, in many cases, it depends, but in many cases, any traffic that you can bring to your own site is going to be your most valuable traffic. You have the chance there, whatever your objective is. If you're looking for leads, you have a chance to capture a lead there. If you're looking to sell something directly, you have a chance to sell to them if they come to your site. So obviously that's, that has value. You want to continue to do that. So social to me is a secondary but valuable strategy, because now you're saying, like, okay, I'm trying as hard as I can. I want to get as much. I want to get good links. I want to get good content that's going to attract those good links and be bringing people in. But I need to get now in front of other audiences. I'm only going to get so much audience for that site. I've done that. I've got to continue to grow that. But now I'm going out. I'm saying, like, so maybe you start to, your first outreach is you start to do guest posting on good sites out there and get some authority, get in front of, what my boss calls OPA, other people's audiences. Get in front of them. And, that's, you're driving SEO traffic, you're driving SEO value to that site, you're not getting any benefit of that, but you're building an authority for your name and your brand, and other people say, like, oh, who's this guy? Wow, he knows what he's talking about. I want to dig deeper and find out, oh, he said he has a website. I'm going to go there. So, and then the things we're talking about, social media, like posting in Google Plus, posting on LinkedIn, posting on Facebook, tweeting, whatever, Pinterest, those things are just another extension of that. It's just ways to, you got to be, you can't sit at home all the time and expect all the audience to come to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's, you use the word "be careful" a lot in a lot of scenarios. Is it?
From years of watching Hill Street Blues, there's another old reference.
Is it a problem to be posting a link to your blog post on your website, on, cross-posting it on Facebook, on Google Plus, on your other social presence, so that people you connect to there can go looking at them?
I can speak from Google Plus specifically, and I've had talked to John Mueller, who is one of the advanced people on the Google Webmasters team, on a great guy. He does a weekly hangout, Google Webmaster Central hangout, for an hour, the guy is incredible because he's an hour in German, which is his native language in Europe, and he does an hour every week in English, where a lot of people or anybody can come and just hang out and ask any questions they want. He may not answer all the questions, but you can ask anything you want. And he was very forthcoming, and I've asked him specifically about this. But he said, Google sees social media links are different than links on the web. First of all, they don't really have much SEO value, even from Google Plus. Like the links, a lot of days of Google Plus, everybody thought that was the value, right? We're going to spam Google Plus with links, and it's going to, everything. And Google's smarter than that because it's too easy to share things on Google. So the short answer to your question is no. That won't hurt you. It's not a penalty situation. It's not seeing like manipulative links or that because they don't. Only possibly for discovering new content. I don't think from an SEO standpoint they pay that much attention to social links. So I wouldn't, have fun. Don't be careful. Risk it all. Pardon? John Mueller, M-U-E-L-L-E-R. Just look for that on Google Plus. You'll find him. He's a little short, fat, bald guy, real friendly. But, yes. Yeah.
So actually, I have a lot of questions, more than thinking about can of worms. But the first I have is, I tried Google Plus and I followed you, kind of see what you do. And I think
well, that's all I need you to do. So okay, we.
And it's all the bumping fault. But I guess my question is, I try to follow people, but I find that it's a lot of SEO geeks and a lot of Google Plus geeks, and I don't really find the mainstream on Google Plus, but I just may not be looking in the right places. And maybe the second question about circles and communities. I work with a lot of local businesses, nonprofits, and not the Fortune 500. And I do that intentionally because I feel they get left out. And I Google for business, I was on the phone with them for like 3 hours for one of my clients, and I almost pulled my hair out. And I understand the stuff more than she does. Yeah. So I have a question about how maybe a local business could use community, or even a national, but like a local firm that serves national clients.
Well, those are big questions. I think, that's okay. I think the first one we kind of dealt with, and that is, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I've already said, and I'm a huge enthusiast of Google Plus, and I love it. I use it every day. You're not going to find everybody there, and so there's definitely certain, some verticals are more active than others. Sometimes you can be surprised, though. If you search around, you can find communities. Sometimes, like I've seen people help communities come alive. There's communities that kind of started and died, and other people come in and say, like, hey, I want to see this happen on Google Plus. Let's get active. They bring other people in, and they suddenly have an active, thriving community. But you've got to. That's the hard work of Google Plus is that in most cases, it's not going to happen until you make it happen. You've got to go in. And what I tried to present tonight is an incentive to do that, because if it wasn't for the benefit that I showed you tonight, I wouldn't be here, because it wouldn't be any. I wouldn't say like. Why would I tell you to do extra work to, okay, now you all got to go out and try to bring people into Google Plus. And say, why? Well, just so you have my Google Plus. There's no real value in that. What I try to provide you tonight is say, like, hey, there can be a real targeted benefit to doing that. Now, honestly, it's going to take a lot of work to make that happen. But if you can find a way to do it, if you get creative, if you can bring a community in, even if it's a small community of your own people, but they're the people you want to have around you, the fact that they will then start to see you more in their search results is just one more way to be in touch with them and reach out to them. And so the other question was about communities and circles, you said?
Yeah, so for my own personal use, I haven't been very successful, and I haven't really tried to consult people.
Yeah.
I have that also. But I would like to do more on Google Plus. I just haven't figured out. And I would love to do more with like CMOs, marketing people, or even just like owners of small businesses.
Okay.
So what would you recommend?
Spearhead something there. Set up a community for that. Start maybe doing some hangouts about that. Find some other people. Start small. Your first few shows, your first live shows. I always refer back to when I talk about anything with video. I always tell you, most of you know like Greg Eng, local community here, the Freezer King.
Yeah.
Greg is a fantastic story because, now he makes a 6-figure plus income a year off of YouTube. That's not the only thing he does in life. He does a lot of other things, but that didn't happen overnight. He had like 2 years of putting up every week, putting up in the beginning very horrible, very low production value videos down his kitchen. He's doing reviews of frozen food in his kitchen on the counter with a little handheld camera, and it's shaking and the camera falls over. And for a year or two he had like 5 people watching, 10 people watching. And he just kept doing it. And he got better and better at it, and he learned how to promote it and how to get his audience. Long story short, he started building an audience in a hockey stick, and just took off like crazy. So be willing to start small, build something of value. I wish Janet Kennedy's not here tonight, is she? I wish Janet was here, because Janet's done that with a targeted healthcare pharmaceutical community on Google+. She's done tremendous work with that and bringing people into that, and is a very active and thriving community. But that just didn't exist. It's specific. It's North Carolina pharmacy professionals, something like that, I think. But I wish she were here. She should give me the exact name. But anyway, she's done from the ground up. So it's I know it's a very simplistic answer, but it's possible to do in your spare time when you don't. Okay. No, I'm with them.